Chapter 13. Many Voices. The house that had filled with people so quickly now began to empty out. The many neighbors and relatives who had arrived bringing meals had stopped coming after the funeral service, and her aunts and uncles were making definite plans to return to their own lives. Most of the conversations between Amalia's parents and her aunts and uncles were about planning trips to visit one another, sharing stories about their work, and talking about their children's achievements. No matter how much they talked with one another, there seemed to still be a lot of catching up to do. Tia Graciela had brought a photo album from Costa Rica, and she kept showing the photos that illustrated all the stories she told of the time when Julian and Lucia were little children. If you give me an iPad, mommy, I'll put all your pictures in it, and it will be a lot easier to carry than that big thing. Julian kept reminding her whenever she opened the album. To Amalia, it seemed they avoided talking about abuelita, and when they did, it was usually to discuss arrangements or to agree on what to do with her things. It made Amalia very sad to see them disposing of abuelita's things, but she appreciated it when Tia Amalia brought the lace tablecloth from abuelita's dining room table and placed it on top of their table. It was the only time she felt some of abuelita's presence there. Amalia could see that her relatives were very much enjoying their time together and being a family, but it upset her that they seemed to have forgotten the sad reason why they had gathered. Antonio, Amalia's father, had not participated much in the exchanges between his wife and her siblings. But one morning at breakfast, he observed, "Do you realize that your mother's last gift to all of you was bringing you all together one more time?" Realizing the truth of the statement, everyone became silent. A moment later, there was much talk among the family about how they were going to keep in touch more frequently now that it was so easy to stay connected with computers. That evening during dinner, Tio Patricio and Tia Graciela surprised everyone by announcing they had decided not to return directly to Costa Rica. "We're taking you up on your invitation, Manuel," said Tio Patricio. "We'll spend 1 week at the rancho," added Tia Graciela, who usually completed her husband's remarks. We've always believed that traveling is the best possible education. The kids will catch up later on the classes they missed." Tio Patricio then explained, "I think it's a good idea for the kids to get to know the place where we all had such great times when we were kids. It will give them a true sense of what you have achieved, Manuel," added Tia Graciela. They were obviously very pleased with the idea of visiting the family rancho, and Julian and Lucia were especially surprised and excited about this unexpected trip. "We're going to Mexico, to the rancho," Julian kept repeating. He couldn't contain his enthusiasm. He went on and on, telling his parents how he wanted a pair of boots and a hat like his uncle's. "You'll let me ride Trueno, Tio Manuel, won't you?" he asked eagerly. Tio Manuel had told them many stories about his two favorite horses, Trueno and Relámpago, that is, thunder and lightning. Trueno was a black stallion and Relámpago a golden mare. "We'll first have to see how good a rider you are," asked Tio Manuel with a smile. "It's fantastic, isn't it? We get to see the rancho Papa keeps talking about." Lucia seemed truly excited about the idea. Her mother had taken her to the mall for the final shopping trip, and she had come home loaded with packages. Lucia had bought presents for some of her friends in Costa Rica and was sure she would be the best dressed girl in her class. Tia Amalia was the first to have to return home. She had left Mexico City in the middle of the preparation for a new television series, and she needed to finish her wardrobe designs for the main actor's clothes. As she explained to Rocio why she could not stay any longer, she insisted that during the summer, Amalia and her mother should visit her in Mexico City. We haven't seen each other for so long. It's a shame we needed something as sad as this to make us realize we must spend more time together, Tia Amalia said to her sister. And addressing her niece, she added, it's time you see Mexico City, Amalita. It's an incredible city. There is so much to see. You must come this summer. Julian added, do you realize that there are more than 21 million people in the Mexico City metropolitan area? That makes it the largest group of people in this hemisphere. There are more people in the metropolitan area of Mexico City than in those of New York or Los Angeles. Once he'd found out he was going to the rancho, Julian had been looking up all kinds of information about Mexico on the internet. It's the third largest metropolitan area in the world, he affirmed with great emphasis. Numbers are important, of course, Tia Amalia said, but there is far more than that. In Mexico City, you can see so much of our history. There are the pyramids of the sun and the moon in Tenochtitlan, the capital of the Aztec Empire. There are magnificent colonial buildings showing what an important city Mexico was during the colonial times. We will also go to the National Museum of Anthropology, with art from the many cultures that flourished throughout Mexico, and we will see the extraordinary works of the great muralists, especially Diego Rivera, which will help you understand the history of our people. And we will visit the house of Frida Kahlo and the Jardines de Chapultepec. These floating gardens are a reminder that the original city of Tenochtitlan was actually built on a lake. Julian listened, fascinated. It was clear that he couldn't wait to see such marvels. For Amalia, all of it sounded very distant from her present feelings. Before leaving, Tia Amalia bought a webcam and installed it on her sister's computer and made everyone promise they would do the same. She called Amalia's mother the day after she left, and they all talked enthusiastically through the computer. You could, you could use this to call Martha sometime, Amalia's mother said to her after she finished talking to her sister. But Amalia simply shrugged her shoulders. During this awful time, Martha's company would have been important to her, but precisely because she would not have had to explain anything. Martha always understood her feelings without her having to elaborate on them. Now, just thinking of having to explain her feelings to Martha was overwhelming, and not something she would like to do over the telephone or the computer. Amalia continued to feel confused. She could not understand how everyone could feel happy at a time when she felt so miserable and missed her grandmother so badly. The house smelled of food and flowers, and these smells that she normally enjoyed so much now seemed to give her a headache. She could not stop thinking about that last Friday at her grandmother's. She remembered every moment, every word, and she began to wonder whether her grandmother had been wrong all along, loving everyone so much, when they could just go about their lives so easily now that she was no longer around. It all seemed very unjust, and it filled her with anger just to think about it.